Hi friends, how are you? It's your friendly poet Maniza. I'm here back on the channel, and today I'd like to give you something to ponder here on the Get Set, Ready and Publish series. Get Set, Ready and Publish series. Today I'd like to discuss why us poets and writers should have a copy of our work. Number one, you must have a copy of your poetry or masterpieces so you may be able to reuse it. Okay, I know many of us, including I, have heard of how we should always have a copy of our writing. If no matter what happens, whether our device decides to shut down on its own or the Wi-Fi decides to not cooperate, or many other reasons why our work would somehow disappear, keeping a copy of our work, whether it's backing it up with Apple iCloud, with Google Drive, Microsoft Drive, or with Dropbox, whichever iCloud service you're comfortable with, we need to have a copy of our work. One such example where I did not realize this was when I started writing. I wrote a poem called Pumpkin Spice Ice Wrap. This was a poem I written in a moment where at the time I didn't know how poetry was written, but I was willing to give it a try. What I didn't realize was that I was writing in the Medium editor. Now remember, there's nothing wrong writing in the Medium editor. However, if you do not either copy or paste it or somehow get a copy from Medium, you are then in a very tricky situation. If you decide to recycle a part of your poem, or you decide to post it elsewhere. Well, getting back to the story, what happened was I realized that it wasn't copy and pasted, so I was doing as much as I could to get a copy. What happened was this is something I did not remember doing, but then I realized I did have a copy, but it was in a app. So this is one situation where if you have any pieces of work, which I do, some of my pieces where I just written the Medium editor and just hit publish, then you know that you are in a tricky situation, because now you cannot publish your work elsewhere, and it is on Medium, whether you like it or not. Now, the second reason why you should have a copy of your poems or masterpieces, whether that's an essay, article, or anything else, is so you do not lose what you've written. There have been times in the past where I have just written and published on Medium and not realized the consequences. I did not realize how I would not be able to recollect what I've written, which was amazing, and I did cry about it. Yes, it's embarrassing. Very, very, very embarrassing. But that's what happens when you don't realize you need to back up your work, or you need to keep a copy in an app, service, or simple pen and paper. Now, a third reason why you should have your poems and essays, articles, or any other masterpiece you are working on. This is so when you go look at it somewhere in the near future or somewhere in the distant future, whichever time in your life you decide to go back to look at your work, you will realize you don't have it because of how you realize a platform you once written on is A, no longer available, or B, they deleted their work completely, even though you can go into the time machine on Google to recollect your work. And number 4 is platforms. You cannot rely on platforms to keep your masterpiece and your poems and your articles and essays long term. What happens is that every time you publish, it's now on the interweb, and you have to understand that everything gets buried. Even if you're doing a tweet that's once, it still gets buried underneath all the other tweets if you don't tweet often. That's just one example. Another thing you must keep in mind is that not all platforms are meant to last. There are some who are just started, and then there are some who have lasted half a decade or more. Unfortunately, I don't have any examples now, but you have to understand that right now there's a writer's renaissance going, where there's a lot of new platforms like Vocal, and there's one other I can't recall. And what's happening is that that's where many writers are going through. But what you have to also remember is you need to keep a copy of your work. Now, one of the few apps I can recommend you to use if you have your iCloud turned on in Apple settings is Drafts and Bear. And the reason I recommend these two apps is because A, they are simple to use, and B, I only use the very basic functions. So the apps are structured as a platform where you can just jot notes. You can even ask Siri or Google or Alexa to jot down your note, and then you can just go into the app and get it. And I've done this many times with Drafts with Siri, and it's accessible. Just know that I'm recommending you these two apps because they are voiceover friendly. As to if they're friendly with other screen readers, I am not sure, but just know that these two are the apps I use when I want to jot down my poems and other ideas that come into mind. Now, before I log off for today, just know these 5 reasons why you should always have a copy of your poem, article, essay, or masterpieces of any kind. One, it is because it is easy for your work to get lost due to a platform existing and not existing, depending as to how long they last. 2 is so you may reuse your work somewhere down the future. 3, it is so if it's backed up in a iCloud, then you can look at it again. 4, it is not to rely on a social media because of how easy it is to lose your work. Now, I hope you liked today's video. If you do, please hit subscribe and like this one. Also, please spread the word on social media. You can reach me on Twitter at www.twitter.com/@MasterMuniza. That's MasterMuniza. Also, you can read some poems from poets who are rocking in their world. Seriously. And you can also check me out on my blog, www.medium.com/@Muniza521. That's MUNIZA 521. Also, if you don't have time to sit down and read, then please hop over to my podcast, Masterpiece. You can listen to Masterpiece on Spotify, Breaker, Stitcher, or wherever you love to listen to podcasts. Masterpiece. MasterPiece. See you soon, your friendly poet, Muniza Master.